Hello everyone and welcome back to La Vida Fútbol. My name is Laureano. Today we're going to talk about the 3-1-4-2 formation and the strengths and weaknesses of this formation. So let's begin by looking at the formation and how the teams are set up when we look at this formation. So to begin, we can see that we have 3 defenders. We have the left back, we have 1 center back, and then we have the right back. We have the number 5 position, and our number 6 and number 8 are making up the middle for the line of 4, with the 11 and 7 of course on the outsides. And then up top we have the number 9 and the number 10. Let's first take a look at the partnerships that are created when we use this formation. So if we can make a square here to highlight what we have in the middle, you can see that we have 3 players occupying that center of the field, which allows for a lot of connections, triangles to be formed, and a lot of passing opportunities. So with this formation, it's important to have midfielders that are really good tactically, technically, and that have a lot of endurance and are very fit to go up and down the field. So let's move this to the side here. So now here we have the partnerships between the center back and the number 5 with the left back. Of course, that's the same on the other side. And basically what this does is this allows the 3 players here to move around and essentially create a different type of partnership. So here we have now the 5 and the 4 occupying that space. But if we have our number 6 come a little bit deeper, then we have 3 players back again. Okay, so then let's move it up to the top now. So if we go up, we have the number 6 again, who 6 and 8 are very important in this formation because we can be very flexible with that formation. On the other side, 3 players there. So you can tell already that with this formation, there is a lot of opportunity to move around and to create triangles and to overload the opponent based on specific movements that the team can make. Now let's take a look at the spaces. So here we have the spaces that are available with this formation. So this could either go into the strengths or the weaknesses of this particular formation. So as you can see here on the outsides, we have a lot of space. That is when these 3 players are in this lined up in this formation, and that's actually a very dangerous situation. So this particular formation you wouldn't necessarily use with teams that are a little bit more direct, simply because they would be exploiting that space throughout the entire match, and that would be exhausting, and that wouldn't allow for the number 3 and the number 2 to be going up the field. So now let's take a look here in between the lines, in between the back line and the line of 4. We have these 2 spaces on the sides. So again, this is actually an advantage and a disadvantage for this formation. It's an advantage because this allows the number 3 and the number 2 to actually occupy that space and essentially move up the field. So during a build-up, for example, can get your team to essentially exploit that during the build-up. So for example, if we get our number 5 to dip in, and then either a number 8 or a number 6, in this case we can let's say for example the ball is there, then our number 8 can come in and essentially create a triangle to try to get the ball either to the number 2, or number 7 can also come in deep and help out a little bit, or our number 10 can come in deep and help out in the build-up. Okay, so then those are the spaces that are available in the center. You also have some spaces here going forward, and that is essentially that's a little space if we take a look at it. But when we move up the field, obviously this can get a lot bigger because we only have 2 attackers. Not only, but we have 2 attackers, the 9 and the 10, and the 10 and the 9 are actually in a very flexible situation where they can come in deep and occupy the middle, because a team that's using this particular formation is a team that can move around quite nicely and have a good fluid of movements, and can maintain that fluid of movements throughout the match. Okay, next we're going to look at the build-up play. We're going to do this without any defenders, just so that you guys can see the movements that are available. So a strength in this particular formation is the flexibility of who can help, because like I mentioned earlier, when we have three players occupying the middle, that means there are three available options that can come in deep to essentially help out, which would still allow for 4 players to stay a little bit higher up. So if we build up with a number 2 and a number 3, then this will usually require, for example, if we play the number 2, this would essentially require the number 7 to return and the number 5 to essentially be an option, and then either the number 8 or the number 10 to be an option here in the center. So of course this could also be the situation where the number 8 goes out, so that the midfielder defending the number 8 also opens up, so that the number 10 can receive the ball in the middle. Or of course the number 8, if there is no defender or there's space, then the ball can essentially get played directly to the number 8 and then to the outside and then forward. Let's go back to the goalkeeper. So here the flexibility and availability of space on the outsides allows this formation to work and function properly for teams that can essentially move well. And this formation is also an advantage for teams that have players that can keep calm and keep their composure under pressure and can play deep in their own half. So here we have our number 2 and a number 3 opening up, and then our number 4 would essentially open up to a side to allow the number 5 to come in deep. So now, as you can see here, we have a line of 4 in the back. And if our 8 and our number 6 go back a little bit, then we have essentially a 4-4-2 formation that could essentially again be adapted with this formation. So if we have our number 7 and our number 11 go up higher, then this would allow our number 2 and our number 3 to get up higher. 4 and 5 can open up, and either our number 8 or our number 6 can tuck in between to essentially create a different formation here. So that's the flexibility that you have with this formation, and that is a big advantage for teams that can move properly, who have the players and that are fit and who are technically able and tactically able to adapt to the ever-changing possibilities here, right? So then this is basically a big advantage here. Okay, but there are weaknesses. So let's take a look at how it looks, for example, with opponents there. So the 3-1-4-2 formation versus a 4-3-3 formation. As you can see here, the 4-3-3 has a lot of players in the center and 3 attackers. So having 3 attackers is very dangerous with this formation because, like I said, the number 3 and the number 2 are essentially there to play a little bit wider out. So when you have 3 attackers, then essentially on defense you would always have, or you would always want to have essentially a line of 4, right? That was a little too much, but you're essentially always going to have to be in a line of 4 to be able to meet the demands of having 3 attackers. Okay, so then that essentially will take away from your attack because your formation is no longer 3-1-4-2, but essentially a 4-4-2 or a 4-1-3-2 or a 4-1-4-1, right, on defense. because of this overload from the opponents there. Okay, so that is essentially one of the disadvantages. Another disadvantage is that it's very demanding for the number 5, 6, and 8 because there are so many opportunities to go up and attack, and essentially, of course, you're always having to defend when the opponents recover the ball. So then that transition will occur multiple times throughout a match, and that would essentially be very demanding for the players in the middle of the field, and also demanding for the players on the outside, because having to go from essentially box to box, because with the 3-1-4-2 you actually use these two players to be part of your attack, right? So that is another that is another position that gets overloaded with demand with this particular formation. So going back to no opponents here, one of the weaknesses, and actually also a strength, is that you have so many players committed forward, right? So just by looking at this particular situation here, we have 6 players committed forward, and if we move the number 5 a little bit higher up, then we have essentially 7 players on the attack, with the option of having the number 2 and the number 3 going up higher, right? So then if we move this, then we basically have a lot of players that can be options for the attack. Okay, so then again, that is an advantage and a disadvantage. Disadvantage because you overcommit going forward, which leaves you vulnerable in the back. So in this particular situation, we only have the number 4 here in the back, right? So that is, of course, a disadvantage. The advantage, on the other hand, is that you have so many options for attack that you might not even have to defend if you can maintain possession of the ball, and then at the end either get a shot on goal or on target, or just a shot in general, right? So if your team can manage that, then of course this would be an advantage to have so many players forward and so many players that can go up and back and transition. So if we take a look at this with opponents, so again, 3-1-4-2 versus a 4-3-3. Some of the disadvantages, of course, is if we look at the spaces again. So we have spaces there, and there. So now here we have two players attacking one number 3, so one of the defenders, and that is essentially, if the opponents can exploit that outnumbering situation, then of course that could be dangerous throughout the match, because again, when you have 3 strikers, you're almost always going to be required to play with essentially the number 5 tucking in between the 3 and the 4. Okay, so then that is essentially something that teams will have a hard time dealing with if you're playing in that formation, because you essentially have to go back, right? Okay, another disadvantage with this formation, or a weakness, we can take a look. If we only have one attacker, right? If we only have one attacker, then it's not too practical, because you essentially you use this so that the 3 and the 2 can go out. But of course, on defense, if you have two attackers, then just having the 3 and the 2 stay a little bit, then you have a 3 versus 2 situation. But with with having one attacker, then you're essentially handicapping yourself, because you always have to have someone there to maintain that outnumbering situation versus the opponents. And of course, that can take away from your build up. So whether it's one of the outside backs or the number 5, you're always going to have someone back there to try to essentially help you with that attacker. And it changes the way you play. So you wouldn't necessarily use this formation with one attacker without having, the idea of like, okay, on defense, we're not going to have a line of 3, we're going to have a line of 4. Okay, so then it's always adapting to that as well. Okay, so here's another angle, right? So if the opponents are, for example, playing in a 4-1-4-1 formation, then essentially, that kind of you can see that this is already an uncomfortable situation, because the players on the outside are a little bit farther on the outside, therefore can exploit the spaces that we talked about earlier. In the back, I think the biggest weakness with this formation is the gaps that are left when defending, right? If you look at this formation at its just at its face, we can see that on the attack it can be very vulnerable to exploiting the wings. So that's pretty much it with the defense. We're going to finish off on a positive note, and with one of the strengths, and the biggest strength I would say is the attack. So here, when we have 3-1-4-2 as our formation, we have the flexibility that allows us to attack with essentially 8 players at one time. Okay, and that is essentially going to be very difficult for teams to handle. And if we take a look at the duels, we have 2 versus 2 here. We have essentially 3 versus 3 there if our left back helps out. Same on the other side. In the center of the field, we have essentially a 4 versus 2. So basically a rondo game right there in the middle of the field. So that is essentially an area that you would try to exploit with this particular formation. Again, also on the outsides, you have again the possibility of a 3 versus 3. So you're rarely put in a situation where you are outnumbered by the opponents when you are attacking. So this is something that is only done when the other team commits more players back, and to essentially balance that out. But that is a big advantage with this formation, is that you can attack really in different parts of the field and essentially be in same number situations, or even essentially outnumbering, or again rarely are you put in a situation where it's like this, for example, 3 versus 2. But even that, you are essentially taking 3 defenders for 2 players, which allows space somewhere else in the field. Anyways, that is it for this video. I hope it helps. I hope you understand a little bit more and learned a little bit about the 3-1-4-2 formation. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you get notified every time I come out with a new video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.